Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Thursday, September 3rd, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Central, or 5 minutes thereafter, in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Well, it's Thursday, and that means it's GMing Tips Day. Tips for game masters from various sources. Today, looking at some random chunk of the DMG from first edition Dungeons and Dragons. That's the Dungeon Master's Guide, a tome chock full of all sorts of wonderful gaming advice. And you know what? Right on the heels of the section that we looked at last week on dealing with what was it called? Well, see, now I don't. Now I've gone and done it, huh? Oh boy. Oh boy. Here, let's just do this because I can find it easily again like this. I thought it was like page 110, right? Yeah. Nope. There it is, integration. Handling troublesome players was last week. Integration of experienced or new players into an existing campaign, that, I think, is another thing we're spending some time on. Let's read what the great sage Papa G has to say. Hey, by the way, speaking of the Gygaxian family, congrats to Ernie for surviving his birthday. Donna took good care of him yesterday, and they had some folks over having just a quiet, mostly socially distant outdoor small gathering. I know his sister Heidi, who's back in town, along with her granddaughters by Mike, the wonderful Mikey Gygax, who's a fine fellow himself, but I think was overscheduled yesterday and couldn't make it himself. Same with Alex. Alex just working way too much lately. But Heidi was able to get over there, and Duck Leeson was able to be there, and Tom Wam, whose birthday was only a few days ago, in late August there, so it was kind of a dual birthday thing. I think even the mayor of Lake Geneva stopped by to knight him as the Sir Ernest of Hillmore. I think he officially now is one of the champions of the former golf course and protecting it from overdevelopment in Lake Geneva. So he's got his work cut out for him. There are some precedents, though, for areas. I think Indian Hill, was it in Bloomingdale, was bought up by the city, and they're using it for public purposes rather than allowing it to be developed and to, make every small town into a urban area, a sprawling suburban, everything looks the same nightmare. I mean, we've already got a Walmart. What do people want from us, huh? I've lived here just a little over 7 years, and I'm acting like... One of its charms, though, Lake Geneva, is that it is a small town, and the bigger it gets, I'm not going to say the less charming it gets, but I don't want to be one of those guys. I'm not a not in my backyard kind of guy. I'm not a not a Luddite or an obstacle to change or progress. However, there's a really nice frisbee golf course over there that a lot of my friends use, and if they develop that area, that's going to go bye-bye, and that's not good. I don't know. Do we need more development? Do we need more shopping centers? Do we need more? I don't think so. I think if we've seen anything, we've seen that over the last 6 months that we're kind of at a nice equilibrium between small town and large. And we get plenty of people in on the holidays. We don't need in the summertime. We don't need just to attract more people, I don't think. Anyway, that's my 5 minutes on local world building, town building growth. So there you go. Anywho, this section followed right on the other one, so it kind of caught my eye as something worth discussing. Integration of experienced or new players into an existing campaign. A viable campaign. Oh, Chris Brown was there too yesterday. Yeah, the excellent Chris Brown. And Wade and Jill Key are up from North Carolina, so they were stopping by. And, of course, the ever irascible, lovable Scott Felton. Lord love him, he's a fine young man who has managed to, he's close to a half century old, and I don't think he ever even thought that guy's been in the soup more times than anybody I know when it comes to his military experience. I know a lot of people that have been in the military, and some people for long stretches. That guy was in some tough situations and came out the other side. If I know anybody who's earned some experience, it's Mr. Scott Felton. Fine man that he is. I hope he continues to survive through this crazy time and manages to come out of it on the other side with an even more peaceful demeanor than he already possesses. New players into an existing campaign, a viable campaign, is likely to suffer some attrition as it progresses, with players dropping out for one reason or another and new participants coming into the campaign milieu. Boy, he loves that word. Some of these newcomers will be experienced players from other campaigns and have special characters which they wish to continue with. Other experienced players will have no characters, but they will have useful knowledge of the game which puts them apart from true novices. Finally, there will be the totally uninitiated participants, those who have only a vague idea of the game or who have absolutely no information as to what it is all about. These three types of new players will have to be integrated into a campaign which could be in nearly any state of maturity, with the majority of players being low, middle, or high level. To accomplish a smooth transition, Gary says, I suggest that the most applicable form of those given below be followed. And now he will give several ideas. Let me just say at the outset that I am a big fan of players that are coming into the campaign taking on the role of some NPC heretofore not part of the group, or even if somebody has a henchman or hireling who's been following along, boosting them up to put them on par with the other characters is not a bad idea. Having somebody who they know from town, who is not so well known that it couldn't possibly be of the same level and adventurer as the party, but at least they know who this character is. Things like that. Working a character in like that. Obviously, you want anybody you bring into your game to be happy with what they're playing, so you want to make sure that let me not have that go unsaid. But at the same time, if their happiness is to have a 12th level wizard when your players are all currently 6th level, then that happiness is going to have to be set aside, at least for a while. Maybe they could join later in a year or two when they're 7th or 8th level. I don't know. Anyway, hey Hobbsy, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you there. The sage himself continues. Transferring player characters from other campaigns to yours is appreciated by the participants coming into the milieu, again with the word, as they have probably spent a good deal of time and effort with their characters, and a certain identification and fondness will have been generated. You can allow such integration if the existing player character is not too strong or too weak for your campaign and otherwise fits your milieu with respect to race and class. The arsenal of magic items the player has will have to be examined carefully, and it is most likely that some will have to be rejected. Or perhaps they will need a little, +1 sword turned into a +2 sword. They might need a little boost to bring them up to snuff so that they're a valued contributing member of the new group that they're joining. Morning, LuxFire22. How you doing? If several of such player characters are coming into your game at the same time, they can actually be of lower level than the balance of participants as long as they cooperate and adventure together rather than with the others until they have approached parity with the group. If the character or characters of the new participant or participants are too powerful for the campaign, the players will have to accept the fact and develop some new characters. However, it is not wrong to let them know that some future time might see a state of maturity which will allow the joining of the new characters with their old as cooperating equals or as leader and henchman. Now, there's another possibility that I've done on occasion when running a campaign, is somebody brought a character and said, hey, I know your campaign's 6th level, I'll try not to be disruptive, but I have this 10th level character I've been working on a long time, and I'd like to find a way to include it in your campaign if we can. And I've looked it over and said, okay, well, we're going to retroactively, or we're going to retro this character back to 6th level. So you'll be playing a younger version of yourself, obviously in an alternate timeline, in an alternate universe. They're moving from one campaign to another, so assumably they are moving from one setting to another anyway. How do you justify that, within the physics and realities of both of those campaign settings without, stubbing a few toes and using a bit of duct tape? So I say, roll that character back a few levels. Let's make it the same level. If you develop it the same way, that's fine. If your goal is to make a carbon copy of what you've already played, well, there you go. You can manage that too. But maybe take this time, now that we've rolled it back 4 levels, to explore some of the choices you didn't make playing that character in the other setting, in the other campaign. And that way it's going to be, even though you're playing a character you've already played, it's going to be more fresh for you as a player to try out some new things, some different things. And I dare say there'll be a few people that would call this the Thomas Riker way of integrating characters into new campaigns. And, I wouldn't say that's a bad analogy, right? The divergent paths. You've just taken a character, rolled it back 6 levels, and created the second path, knowing full well, banging the mic there, knowing full well that the other path has already been trodden for 6 levels, and now you have to work with the secondary or additional or alternate PC, whoever he may be. So there's an idea. Experienced players without existing characters should generally be brought into the campaign at a level roughly equal to the level of that of the other player characters. If the average is 4th level, for example, an average die or D4 plus 1 can be rolled to find a level between 2 and 5. This actually works well with, let me read that again. This actually works well even if the average experience level of the campaign is 5th, 6th, 7th, or even 8th. Especially when the averaging die is used. If the experience level is above 8th level, you will wish to start such newcomers out at 4th level or higher. After all, they are not missing out on anything, as they have already played beginning character roles elsewhere, and they will not have to be virtually helpless and impotent characters in your campaign, as you give them a substantial level to begin with, 4th, 5th, 6th, for instance. You might be in a position to take a different approach if there are several experienced newcomers in your campaign by adapting the method given below for the complete neophyte. Before getting on with that, let me say that I do something kind of like this in spirit. If I have a new player that is going to roll up an entirely new character, I talk to all the players. I make sure I know what all the current players' characters' experience is to the point. And I find out who has the least amount of experience of anybody in the current group, and then that is the experience point total that the incoming player has, no matter what character class they intend to play, and that allows them to jump right into the game with a viable character without giving them anything that hasn't been earned by somebody else. Nobody is going to be outshone, at least in terms of total experience points, by an incoming new player this way. I don't see any more fair way. You could say 1 less, maybe. So if somebody has 10,500 experience and they're the least experienced character in the current campaign, 10,499, you could say. You could make it some tier lower, 10,000. Leave it at that. I just do the lowest amount because I find that's fair enough. If everybody has the same amount of experience, because everybody shows up and everybody has been getting an equal amount, then no harm, no foul for anybody, right? If somebody has a little bit less because they missed a session here or a session there, and that's the way you run things, then they're only lowest by virtue of the fact that they missed. Now everybody has lives, and it's nobody's fault necessarily if somebody doesn't make it to a session. Nevertheless, you're not giving anybody coming in anything more than they have, so there you go. That's my way of dealing with it. Let me see what we have next. Oh, comic. It's a great new fantasy role-playing game. We pretend we're workers and students in an industrialized and technological society. It's called Papers and Paychecks. Classic McLean. Funny stuff. All right, let's look at this paragraph. The inexperienced player should be allowed the joy of going on a dungeon adventure as a neophyte. It's true. Boy, there's something. LexFire22 says the key is that a new or first-time player has fun and looks forward to the next game. First impressions, very important. Absolutely. And a lot of my advice takes for granted the idea, and probably shouldn't, that if all of this isn't fun, why are you doing it? Go play Frisbee golf. Go do something else. You've got to be enjoying yourself. And then let's not forget, well, it is the responsibility of every player and the DM to allow a new player to have fun. It's not necessarily their responsibility to ensure that new player has fun. It is incumbent on somebody who joins in an activity to be open to having fun and to allow themselves to have fun in that activity and then just enjoy themselves. You can't force someone to have fun, and you can't make someone have fun. But you can get the hell out of the way and allow them to have fun. And that's really, I think, the main thing, is don't be an obstacle. You know? Because you can't spell obstacle without numbskull. And I think there's a lesson there for all of us, and mostly that I have trouble spelling. Let me read this last section. The inexperienced players should be allowed the joy of going on a dungeon adventure as a neophyte. You will recall how much fun it was when you didn't really know what was going on or which monster was which or how to do anything, but loved every second of it. Throwing a green player into a group of veteran AD&Ders destroys all hope of that, for the inexperienced player will be suppressed and repressed, or both. If there is only one neophyte in your campaign, set up a special area for first level of experienced play, and likewise set aside some time for the individual to play alone. A couple of the experienced players can act the part of some mercenary men-at-arms, as well as the roles of various tradesmen and others the new player meets in the course of play, and have a lot of fun in the bargain. But all actions, reactions, and decisions making will be left strictly up to the neophyte, with no hints or other help from the others. If several green participants are being integrated at the same time, the experienced players will not be needed to help out. But otherwise, procedure is the same. After a few adventures, the newcomers will be seasoned a bit and allowed to join in with major expeditions on occasion. When third and fourth level has been reached, it is generally acceptable to allow full cooperation between the less experienced and veteran players, for at that point the former should be able to contribute something to play and greatly benefit from adventuring with the old hands. Not untrue. I don't know if I'd add anything specific to that except to say, don't overtax yourself as a DM. Don't take on too much. Don't allow your campaign to suffer by spreading yourself too thin. I have no doubt there are individuals who throw themselves into gaming body and soul with every waking hour. Their schoolwork, their job, their home life, their sleep cycles can all suffer from being over-involved. So spread stuff out. Good things come to those who wait. If you have to change your regular campaign game from once a week to 2 or 3 times a month to account for an extra day squeezed in on one of those days for some new players to be developed, then do it that way. Don't necessarily add another 3 or 4 evenings out of the week. And you know what? If people tell you that, they're all gung-ho, of course they are, and you can't blame them. But as a DM, you have to make certain decisions about your own peace of mind and responsibilities outside the game. So don't overcommit. Let me read on. Be careful not to allow magic items from other campaigns to come into yours with integrated player characters, as this could upset the milieu, or at least give the player character something he or she never was meant to have. See non-standard magic items for details. Considered use of inherited or bestowed magic items is certainly urged with respect to the integration of experienced players with new characters into a group of middle or high level adventurers and characters, is what it says actually. Similarly, if a neophyte is to be worked into the campaign as quickly as possible, yet allowing the enjoyment of the first adventure to be unique to him or her, extra funds and a minor item or two should be included when the character is developed. The object of this is to keep the campaign viable, for it is almost certain that attrition will occur and you will need to bring in new players as smoothly as possible in order to maintain the milieu, but you will also need to make the integration as enjoyable as possible for them and for your veteran players as well. All good advice. As I was saying at the top of this, if magic items need to be pumped up for incoming characters that are of a higher level and already have some, but maybe not on par with your current campaign characters, that's also something to look at. But certainly if somebody's bringing in a character that they've been running since they were brand new and their DM was brand new at the time and they were just plucking things out of the magic item section of the DMG as if it was a candy bowl on grandmother's end table and you could just take whatever you want, it might be too powerful for your campaign, so be careful. Take a good look at everything. Anything that is not from the book, and even a lot of things that are, could be on their own more powerful in your campaign than they were in the campaign that the person is coming from. So don't think just because it's in the book and somebody used it somewhere else at a certain level and it wasn't overpowered, that it couldn't be in situations that are in your campaign. So take a good look at that too and make sure that all looks good. So hey, looking at the clock on the wall, I gotta say, we're running out of time, so I'm just gonna say thank you to everybody who's following the show. If you're in the Twitch channel and listening, please do click follow. Jump into the stream chat, say hello from time to time. We keep a list of listeners who are joining in the stream chat. Make sure they're not a bot. Do a little giveaway. We also want to make sure that we're getting our event submitted for Gamehole Con coming up in a couple of months. The rest of the schedule for the week includes adventure building tomorrow, GM and reviews on Saturday. On Sunday, rules retrospective, weekly news and announcements on Monday, cartography and world building on Tuesday, campaign discussion on Wednesday, back around to GMing tips next Friday. If you're catching up with us on YouTube, thank you very much. Please do subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and also leave us a comment if you got some constructive criticism. Well, that's it for me for today. Join us today, tomorrow, the next day, every day, 9:30 a.m. on the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.